This is really difficult. I mean, I'm supposed to be a lady, so I'm not supposed to use bad language or, get risque or anything. But there are some things I simply cannot resist. And when Keir Starmer refers to his father as a toolmaker, and seeing as we all know that the word tool can be applied by some people to a certain type of man, then I am unable to resist the impulse to make the remark that perhaps Keir Starmer's father could have desisted from tool making on, well, at least one night during his lifetime. I'm Granniopteryx.
Dad was a tool maker.
He was skilled as a tool maker, highly skilled.
And your dad, I think it's right to say, was a tool maker?
He was a tool maker, yeah.
Dad was a tool maker.
My dad was a tool maker. And he was a tool maker. He was a skilled man. And it's hard work, it's skilled work.
My dad, he was a tool maker.
My dad was a tool maker. My dad was a tool maker.
So I think you might have got the message on that one by now. And that little clip was lifted from the Politics Joe website, by the way. As you will have worked out, it was Keir Starmer, man of the people, trying to tell the hoi polloi that he's really one of them. This is from the Guido Fawkes website. It says here, Starmer's father admitted he was the owner of a tool-making factory. Well, in this case, I'd say admitted is probably not the right word. He didn't admit it. He just was. There was no secret about it. Now, it's true, he wasn't some multinational or anything like that. The Oxted Tool Company wasn't a huge concern, according to Janet Street Porter in the Daily Mail. And it says here, let's separate the heartwarming myth and folksy stories from the reality. Rodney Starmer owned a small business, was the company director of the Oxted Tool Company, and rented a workshop. OK. He worked from rented premises where, according to Miss Street Porter, his father worked alongside his employees. But it was obviously not such a bad living. Here's this clip in the Guido Fawkes site. And it's a publication from some arts association or other. I think they must have been running a local theatre. And it appears that the Starmer family, no doubt because of their relative wealth, were considerable benefactors one way or the other. He was also a director of a donkey sanctuary, apparently. And that's great, I'm not knocking it. That's what better off people usually do. They're in the fortunate position of being able to give back to society, not only in the swinging taxes they pay, they're also free to patronise various local good causes. That's exactly where the communist ideal misses the point, because individual generosity just doesn't figure in a socialist system. It all has to come from the state. But I digress. Back to the Starmers. Apparently the young Keir worked in Daddy's factory for a year and considered operating the machinery quite boring, according to his father. It's much more exciting, of course, to head the Crown Prosecution Service as Director of Public Prosecutions. It must have been especially not boring when his department made the decision not to prosecute Jimmy Savile when his case came up. Granted, Starmer wasn't the reviewing lawyer for that case, but Starmer was the head. And being the head, he was obviously responsible for the tone of the institution, for the way people felt that like they could operate. Subsequently, Sir Keir has criticised both the prosecutors and the police for not handling the case well. Nothing to do with him, of course. Want me, Gov? Obviously, Starmer was only the head and bore no responsibility for the actions of his subordinates. Perish the thought that he should. After all, his father was a toolmaker, you know. He worked hard and had a successful business. Why would Sir Keir not think that this was something to be celebrated? But you see, Sir Keir obviously thinks that the only validity he can have in the Labour Party is by being one of the oppressed workers, and by implying that his father pulled his overalls on every morning and walked to factory with a spanner sticking out her back pocket and came home for tea every afternoon, wiping an oily rag over his face and telling wife that if those chips aren't ready by the time he gets back from outside lavvy, he'd give her a black eye. Look, what's wrong with being entrepreneurial, imaginative and middle class with social aspirations? There's nothing wrong with it at all, except in the eyes of the Labour Party, which is at heart the trouble with the Labour Party. Everyone has to be working class or they're part of the oppressors. There's no middle ground. So it's necessary to lie. One of the biggest problems with socialism is the absolute necessity of lying all the time. I'm not saying that no other sort of politicians lie, of course they do. But the problem with socialism is that you have to lie to yourself. You can't be the guy in the suit, you have to be the guy in the overalls. And if that wasn't your upbringing, then you'll have to make it up. And as with Keir Starmer, you get so good at it you don't even know you're doing it. Starmer is a hypocrite. In other words, it's a shame, but that's what it is. And his hypocrisy will do incalculable damage to our country if we let him and his gang of third-raters get hold of the levers of power. Mind you, he found operating levers boring when he was working for Dad. Perhaps he'll find governmental levers boring as well, and just end up handing the whole running to Angela Rayner. That's a prospect. And David Lammy, just like he'd let his legal department deal with the boring routine of prosecuting criminals. And that went so well, didn't it? Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you.